Hello everybody. I've decided to do a hike. Today's Thursday. I'm going to spend the night in Regina and then drive to Prince Albert National Park to do Gray Owl's Cabin Trail. It's about 12 miles in, 12 miles out, so 20K each way, and I'm going to set up camp 3/4 of the way in and then day hike it to the cabin itself, spend some time there, explore a little, make my way back to the trail and then to the camp, and then come out on the third day. Just going to go through kind of a loadout of what I'm bringing with me. Here we have my Catadine water filter. That's a pump filter for filtering lots of water at once, filling it up to boil, which I would use in my jet boil. So I can boil water in this to fill up my, to rehydrate my food, which I have some Mountain House. And then I will be bringing some of these Mama Noodles, a bunch of beef jerky and some dried apples, probably a couple other things, Tootsie Rolls and other snacks. So that all goes along with, napkins, toilet paper, spork, and some string goes into my food bag here, and so that way I can easily take it 50 yards from where I'm going to sleep, hoist it up into a tree, and that'll hopefully keep the bears from digging through my food and digging through me. Here we have my headlamp with backup batteries, my bandana, brightly colored in case I have to use it for signaling. Jet boil I already mentioned. Here's a raincoat that I've never used. Looks like it's from the 1950s or something, but hopefully it still works. Emergency blanket, reflective blanket. This is coffee with powdered milk and sugar. I'm not sure if I'll bring the whole thing yet, but I'm just going to bring some coffee filters and elastic band, put them over my cup, and enjoy some coffee. Or I'm not sure how I'll do that. Probably just make cowboy coffee. Bear bell for the outside of my bag so I don't surprise anybody. Lighter with duct tape. Duct tape is really good as an emergency fire starter, and as well as for patching up injuries and blisters and things like that. Actual blister tape, a bunch of, for myself, and in case I meet somebody that might be suffering a blister, need some help. Good loud whistle, very lightweight. A knife. I like these kind of knives for out hiking. They are quick deploy. You can get the blade out real quick, and you can just snap that end piece off to have a new sharp edge. They won't work really good for, chopping logs or splitting kindling or anything like that. But I don't think I'll be doing much of that. So it's good, these two things are absolutely essential. This is an emergency fishing kit. Should, knock on wood, the worst happen, I get stuck out there and hopefully catch a fish and whatever else. So that's kind of what I'll be bringing. I have another water filter here. This is a Life straw, and that you just fill up and suck out of, so it doesn't really work that well for the jet boil unless you're going to spit the water in there and boil it or whatever. But then another water bottle, and I usually fill some snacks in here and my phone and whatever else, and that's kind of for my day hike. So I'll leave a bunch of this stuff 3/4 up the trail, day hike it with this, come back. This is my sleeping arrangement. It's a modular sleep system, care of Army Surplus, U.S. Military. You have a Gore-Tex bivy, which is waterproof, and then two internal kind of sleeping bags that you can remove. But it'll be around freezing at night, so I'll be leaving both of them in there. I took a sleeping pad, it's kind of a regular camping sleeping pad, and trimmed it to fit in here. That's all along the bottom of it. So I have that extra layer between me and the ground or the hammock or whatever I choose. This is a hammock surrounding it. And those are my hammock ropes. So it all bundles up, rolls up, and goes into this cinch sack, which in turn straps to the bottom of my old Army surplus backpack. I bought it in Kelowna, British Columbia many years ago for 20 bucks at a thrift store. It has served me endlessly well, and I'm going to strap my sleep system, my sleeping bag, my hammock, you know, whatever you want to call it, to the bottom of this, and then it's got a top pocket that I can fill with goodies, and I also have an emergency ferro rod and whistle that remain attached to that. Yellow raincoat, also can use for signaling should I get stuck. And there's probably some stuff that I'm going to forget, but that's about it for now. I'll probably update maybe again from the visitor center or the trailhead, and we'll see you on the trail. Wish me luck. Thanks. Well, I've made it to the beginning of Grey Owl's Trail in my trusty war pony, Little Red, and let's get to the trailhead. Here is the trailhead to Grey Owl's cabin, just down from where you park. I'm about to start my hike. Should be pretty good. See you on the trail. Oh, this is the Kingsmere River. Follow this along for a while. And this is Grey Owl's Trail. About 19.5 from the end, so about 12 miles. I think I'm going to go about 8 miles in and set up camp. Then leave the heavy stuff at camp and do the remaining 4 hours. This is my first down tree along the trail. Apparently they're fairly common. First time I came out here was about over 10 years ago with a friend of mine, and her and I were going to go to Grey Owl's cabin. We had no idea what we were getting into. We grabbed each a bottle of water and I think a bag of sunflower seeds, and we were on our way. We came upon our first down tree pretty early on, and luckily for us there was a group coming towards us, and they were pretty beaten up looking and dirty and tired. And we asked them, you know, how long it takes to get to Grey Owl's, and they're like, oh, about a full day. And they continued on their way, and we kind of looked at our water bottles. I'm getting in trouble by the local squirrel population. Looked at our water bottles, looked at each other, and decided that maybe we weren't equipped for this hike. So I've got a bunch of gear now, a bunch of food, water filters. So Winona, hopefully I see Grey Owl's cabin finally after a long time. The smell out here is absolutely incredible. Mixture of fresh rain, spruce, other kinds of pine. It's just amazing. Here's the lake, one of them. I'm not sure which one this is, I forgot to look. But it is absolutely enormous. The camera does it no justice. It's huge. And there's a little sign over there, and I think, I don't know, kind of a beach landing, maybe a portage. This is what my kit looks like. Started getting a little warm, so I took my jacket off. But you can see my bed system, my bedroll with hammock, the bear bell in red and white, and then I got kind of a hip pack that I keep my water bottles in, my water filter in. All in all, we're in around 35 pounds, 35. One thing I like about this pack, it has these quick release Velcro things here. So you undo your lap belt and click that, yank those two, and your pack is behind you. So if you got a bear behind you or whatever, it's now digging through your food in your pack instead of you. If I keep my water filter on my hip pack, and with some calories in there, I'm able to still make it back to safety. One thing they don't mention about when you buy a Vietnam era rucksack like this is that once you put it on, you have to sing CCR. It ain't me, it ain't me, I ain't no fortunate one. When that squirrel was giving me shit back there for being in its territory, reminded me of something that I was taught and something that I've noticed. When you first get to a camping area out in the bush, the squirrels will be after you. They'll be giving you shit constantly. Eventually, they'll slow down. Sooner or later, maybe it's once a day. If even that, they kind of just get used to you and put up with you. I think they know you're not going to be there forever. But then, once they're used to you and they're quiet around you, then if you hear them making noise, that means something else is coming. I'm really surprised at the elevation changes along this trail. As you can see around me, it's absolutely dense, beautiful boreal forest, lakes. You know, a lot of people, they'll drive through Saskatchewan. It's Saskatchewan, by the way, not Saskatchewan. We can tell you're not from here when you say Saskatchewan. Anyways, a lot of people will drive through Saskatchewan and they will have an opinion of the place as very flat, very boring, I guess you could say, as far as topography goes. And if you're traveling the Trans-Canada Highway going across the prairies, it is very flat for miles and miles. You know, the old joke, you can watch your dog run away for days. But that land itself is great, in my opinion. You can't beat the sunrises on flat land like that, and sunsets. The prairie sunrise is absolutely beautiful, especially if you happen to be on the water and it's reflecting. You just can't beat prairie sunsets and sunrises. But other than that, from an agricultural perspective, it is absolutely amazing for those farmers that are lucky enough to own that land, because you know, it's absolutely flat and for miles and miles and not broken up. In North Dakota, we have more kind of hilly land and it's broken into quarter sections. And, you know, a farmer will own a quarter or two here, a quarter or two there, which means traveling with their equipment and stuff like that in order to seed and harvest. But down in the southern parts, it's just all one big stretch, and you can do, you know, so many acres in a day. But anyways, I digress. You get into this land and it is just absolutely beautiful out here, and it's a part of Saskatchewan that unfortunately too many people don't get to see. You know, and it goes like this all the way up to the tundra, Hudson Bay, which I haven't had the pleasure of viewing yet. But there's just so much beauty up here, so much wonderful fishing, hunting, hiking, wilderness exploration. It's absolutely, I hope you get the chance someday. I am, in fact, a fortunate son. This is one of my favorite substances on earth. As you can see, I'm under a pine tree. This is pine sap, also called resin. We call it pitch for the most part. Most people I know call it pine pitch. And it's, in this case, it's hardened. This petrifies to become amber, the precious stone. But it's hardened and you can harvest it from the tree. In its hardened state like this, it makes a really good fire starter. You can often light it and it'll stay lit like a birthday candle underneath wet material to keep it going. You can also pick it dry like this, mix it with a bit of fat, and turn it back into liquid sap, which can be used to treat wounds. Is very effective for treating wounds, and can also be mixed with ashes from your fire to make a very sticky glue to repair things in the field. And it just smells absolutely amazing. Love pine pitch. Here we have, of course, a birch tree. You can see some of the bark is peeling. I'm not going to tear that off, but it can be taken off without damaging the tree itself. This bark, combined with the aforementioned pitch and ashes, along with wooden ribs, would be all put together into to make canoes to go out onto water like this and harvest fish, animals, carry trade goods, all kinds of things like that. So birch is absolutely, I don't have a least favorite tree, but birch is one of my absolute favorites too. And the leaves, when they're green, I have never used dead ones, but when the leaves are green, they make an excellent soap. So you can grab some birch leaves. If you don't have your soap and your shampoo, go into the lake and have yourself a nice bath. And I forgot to mention that you can make booze out of it. Well, what you do is you tap it like a maple tree, and then the very sweet liquid comes out, which is delicious just as it is right out of the tree. But you can, ferment it and mix it with yeast and I think just yeast. I don't know. I don't remember. But it's called birch beer, and people used to do that. I don't think the indigenous people did. I think that came with the settlers. Well, I'm certain it did. But yeah, pretty cool. Some fellow voyageurs that I met up with on the trail. I think I'll fall in with them for a while. Kind of nice to know I'm not alone in case anything happens. Stopped for a bit of a hydration and food break, but you can see this is the beach. There's kind of a ridge there. I don't know if you can see it, where the waves have washed up the sand. So those are some pretty strong waves. That's about, 3-4 feet from the water. And this is the lake. Look how clear that water is. You can't tell where it starts and the sand begins. It's absolutely beautiful water. So I'm pretty happy about that if I have to filter, well, when I have to filter some to drink. This would be a real nice canoe trip. I'm thinking next summer, take the canoe up, maybe borrow a kayak. I'm kind of a canoe guy though. And stay close to the shores here. And there's a couple portage spots, depending where you're from, portage spots along here that are well marked and that you take to get from lake to lake to get to Grey Owl's cabin. So definitely on the books for next summer. Huge lake. You never really want to canoe across a lake. You want to try to avoid deep water in a canoe as much as you can and stay close to the shore. I've done it a few times and I've had some sketchy experiences, but you can get halfway out there and be an hour and a half paddle in, still have an hour left to get to the other side, and a windstorm can pick up, and next thing you know, you're fighting waves, and the wind might not blow you the way you want to go either, so you end up going where the wind goes. But today is absolutely beautiful day. It would be a nice day to be out on the water. I'm just grateful to be on the trail. I hadn't even noticed this. Look at all these shells. Are they snails? Correct me if I'm wrong. Cool. So I've stopped for a foot care break. A very important part of any kind of hike. As soon as you start feeling any kind of hot spot on the bottom of your foot, you should try to address the issue. I got a woodpecker right above me by the sounds of it. Cool. But anyways, I bought these insoles for my Doc Martens, which I've decided to wear. And they have kind of a grippy side and a slippery side. So I put the grippy side down and the slippery side on my foot. And I think what's happening is my foot is sliding around in it too much. And that's how you get blisters, is by your feet moving around inside your footwear too much, rubbing up against. So I've decided to take care of that. I think Lieutenant Dan said it best when he said, take care of your feet. And all around me, and what I'm sitting in here, is moss. Moss is excellent, has a lot of uses. You can filter water through it, I know. And it also makes excellent toilet paper. And in fact, indigenous people would line their moss bags with it to put their babies in, and it would be, used as a diaper. And so when you would stop and change the baby, you would take the baby out, clean them up, and replace it with fresh moss, and be super cozy in there. This, I just noticed, is a stump. You can see some fungus on the side there. I'm not sure what kind of fungus that is. You see a lot of it growing on pine. There's a certain kind that grows on birch. What is it called? It'll come to me. But indigenous people use it as smudge to pray with. And it's very spiritual. But on top of the stump, you can see a bunch of, those are pine husks from pine cones. So my guess is that a squirrel has chosen this spot. You can see kind of the area there, that where he would have sat, and husked all these pine cones to get the seeds out. So he probably has a cache of them underneath there somewhere. Kind of cool little squirrel workshop. One of the cool things about falling in with a group of other hikers, accidentally or intentionally, is that, as I mentioned, I can ditch my pack real quick. And as the old saying goes, you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than your buddy. This deadfall pine, these thin branches like this, especially if you can find some with some old man's beard or Spanish moss on it, in my opinion, make the absolute best kindling. Here's some with Spanish moss. But yeah, that stuff will really get your fire going in a hurry. Widowmaker. Don't stop for lunch or set your tent up under that guy. These little wild ferns are absolutely everywhere, and they're just gorgeous. I don't know if they're edible or not, but they're really neat to look at. Here's a nice little stream going into, I believe it's Waskesiu Lake. But so far, all the little streams and swampy areas have had these boardwalks, footbridges over them, which is really nice. Here we have a sign marking a portage trail with another thing there, which will take you from this lake, which again I believe is Waskesiu. I'll have to double check. And I was just talking to a gentleman, I'll have to get his name and maybe a picture for you guys, the group ahead of me, said that it used to go through to various lakes, but it's not used anymore. And the Park Service would come by dog sled in the winter through these trails and to check on gray owl's cabin, as well as some of the cabins that the Park Service uses and keeps around here. So pretty cool way to get around by canoe, even if it's not used anymore. And one thing I forgot to mention about getting into the deep water and getting blown around by wind and stuff As you can see here, it's relatively flat land, so if you do get into a bad windstorm, you can just go with the wind and the waves to wherever it may blow you. And you might end up on some rocks and you might get a little wet, but generally you're going to make it onto land. Some mountain lakes that I've been to in British Columbia, they don't have gentle beaches and rocky slopes to get off on. They have cliffs. So if the wind blows you that way, you get to the other end and there's cliffs. You might not make it off the water that day. So nowadays I always try to be very careful when I'm canoeing. Here's a mushroom I'm not familiar with. It's actually pretty big. You can see there's my hand. I don't know if it's edible or not. I don't mess around with mushrooms. I don't know, but that's something I really want to learn. I have a couple friends who have harvested mushrooms, both the fun kind and the edible kind. So I'm hoping to learn from them and figure out which are good to eat. But at the same time being extremely careful, because as you all know, you mess around with these and they can take you out. These are soaking up my jet boil, making some mama noodles, or mame, as they're apparently pronounced in, I think, Vietnamese. A friend of mine showed me these a lot of years ago when I was living in Edmonton, and they're just my absolute favorite type of noodle. These are the pork ones. I'm sure there are better ramen out there, but these are very inexpensive. And for the price, you get an oil packet, a packet of oil, which it's good to kind of work like this to get them, to kind of mix it up and get it to all come out of the container easily. And then this is kind of regular season, like you would get in a regular ramen. And then this is the spicy, it's the hot pack. So you get 3 of those different flavors combined. I can't remember how much they are, but they're not a lot more than just the plain ramen. But they're super good, and what I'll do is mix some cooked meat and a handful of mixed vegetables or whatever in with them, and it's pretty much a complete meal. Often what I'll do is mix the meat and the vegetables into a bag and freeze them, and then I just throw that whole bag in with the water, boil it, and making sure not to lose any of my trash here. and then add the noodles. It's very important, I've been told, not to actually boil these, but to let them simmer and cover. You boil the water, then you put the noodles in, you cover them and let them sit for 3 minutes. This is the way I've been doing it. So anyways, I won't bore you with the entire thing, but those of you who have never used a jet boil before, these things are amazing. My friend John turned me on to them, and prior to that I was, like one of these hardcore forest campfire only cooking guy, and I'm going to light a fire and these are gimmicky and what do you need those for? But it's just so easy to come out and just have hot water, have coffee. It boils stuff quicker than a microwave, in my opinion. And now I'm of the opinion that you can enjoy a camping trip without ever lighting a fire, especially in dry conditions when shit could go bad and you could burn down the forest and stuff like that. So, it's really good. So anyways, I'll get this lit. There we're lit. Come on. We are lit. And take my plastic deal off. Take plastic deal off. Yeah. It's been a little while since I've used this guy, as you can tell. And a mosquito just landed on my ear. It's October 23rd, and it's a great time of year to be doing this because there's no bugs. Anyways, set that guy on there, throw the lid on, hush up your noodles, and then we wait. Also, well, as long as I'm filming anyway, I have some jerky that I got. Well, I'll do that later. While we're waiting for the doma noodles to simmer, I'll kind of go over the rest of what I brought. I talked about it before I left, but I've added a few things, like dehydrated apples. I'm a big fan of my dehydrator. It's not the same as a freeze dryer that you make these kind of things with, but I've made some incredible stuff on my dehydrator. Spaghetti, chili, of course, jerky, dried fruit, dried vegetables, all kinds of things. I'll do some videos where I make a really healthy spaghetti. The secret to spaghetti and meats and stuff is to remove the fat. The fat will go bad. Anyways, then I got my toothbrush and stuff. A couple packs of noodles, coffee with cream and sugar. These I picked up before I left from my wonderful local grocery store, Lindsay's. They're really good, and they were like $5 for 6 of them, and they're 110 calories each. So like over close to 700 calories right there. A big pack of jerky from another local store in Crosby, the Depot. And this is some of the best jerky I've ever eaten. It comes from Partial, North Dakota. Myers, apparently, but it's really good. And then, of course, the Mountain House. Mountain House is good freeze-dried meals. You can usually get it at like Walmart, Canadian Tire, or whatever. It's fairly inexpensive, but it is high sodium. There are other options that are a little less sodium. But, generally you're out hiking, you're sweating, you're burning it off. So a little bit of not the greatest food won't hurt you. This was on the discount rack over at Lindsay's. Nut Goody. I think that's American only. Real milk chocolate, roasted peanuts, and maple nougat. All right, nothing like some nougat. And these are my ghetto Walmart emergency bars. As you can see, they're like a 5-year shelf life. They're kind of cool. I mean, they're $5 US. They're 2,400 calories. They taste like sawdust, lard, and cardboard, mixed with a bit of cinnamon and sugar, but they'll get you by, and they don't go bad. They last for 5 years. This particular one is going to be up on December 25th, so I thought I'd bring it just in case. Chances are I'll just end up taking it for a 40-kilometer walk. I don't know, I might try eat it just so I don't have to carry it out. But yeah, so all told, probably, 5,000-6,000 calories. Oh, I got these little energy deals too. I don't know if they have electrolytes or whatever, but I'm going to put some in my water. And yeah, that's my grub for what I thought was going to be a 3-day hike. I think it's only going to be a 2-day now. It's supposed to rain on Sunday, and if I can avoid walking in the rain, all the better. And I did forget my hoodie, which you're always going to forget something, but I've got this big warm jacket, and my sleeping gear is really good. So I've learned to always keep my stuff that's coming with me in one big pile. What I did was I hung the hoodie up in the closet and forgot it. Might have been overkill, but I think I'll get by just fine. I am a Canadian and a North Dakotan, so on the prairies we're used to cold weather like they get up here in the north, only we get wind, especially in North Dakota. When it's 35 below in northern Canada, it's 35 below in North Dakota, but there's also 35-mile-an-hour winds, so it's like 80 below. But hey, haven't died of winter yet, so hoorah, let's do this. Noodle time! I like a noodle. And some jerky, and some apples. Wish I would have brought some bigger sandwich bags. That jerky's really going to smell. I was going to put my food up in a tree, but apparently the campsites have bear caches, so elevated big iron boxes you can put your food in. So that's a bonus. I might leave this one, well, no, the next one. I don't know. We'll see, but it's going to be good. Bone up the teeth. And as always, after any stop, do a scan where you were. Make sure you didn't forget anything. Okay, squirrel. I'll be leaving soon, ma'am. Just bear with me. Even though I don't have a bear with me, that I know of. Okay, I've decided to use this spot to filter some water. There's kind of a bush in the way there, but hopefully you can see. This is my Catadine water filtration system. So eventually I'm going to get the float close to the intake because I don't want it going in too much. Although I'm not sure if that's even enough, but we're going to try it. And this cap goes into my water bottle. This water bottle is also a filter. It's a Life straw. But if I need to, I can drink out of it and filter it twice. But I'm just going to go with the once. So you pump it a few times. Now it's flowing into the thing. And I can use the Life straw only, but it'd be hard to get cooking water. I'd have to spit water back into the jet boil, all that. So these are better if you need lots more water. If you need to draw water for yourself, your dog, whatever. There we go. One full jug. pump the excess water out. And carry on. I did have a bit of an equipment malfunction here. One of my straps that the stitching has come apart on it and kind of made it longer. I don't know if you can see this one. It's stitched together like that for some reason, I think, so it doesn't slip forward, that tag. And I have it knotted up here. I'm sure there's a better way. Anybody who's familiar with these kind of packs and lives in, you know, Saskatchewan, North Dakota, wouldn't mind showing me. I'd be happy to meet up with you. But yeah, my straps here are a little bit janky. I'm sure it's not the way the military does it. Like I say, I kind of ran it through and put a knot in it. Seems to have worked for me over the years. But as far as I can tell, I've never been in the military. I did try to join the Canadian Navy once, but all 4 canoes were full. I kid. A lot of respect to the sailors in both the Canadian, American, and all the other militaries out there. You know, sometimes I say things like hoorah and stuff, and I don't mean to steal any valor or pretend like I'm in the service or anything. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. I just like to use rugged gear that is dependable and fairly inexpensive. But figuring out straps, I've noticed, has been a big part of it, whether it's my snowshoes or these rucksacks, cinch sacks, anything like that. So maybe my new motto should be strap on. Father Son has decided to come out of the clouds a little bit and bless us with this stupendous view of this beautiful lake. The camera does it no justice, but the colors of the sky and everything is just absolutely incredible. Hoping to be able to see some meteor shower tonight. If I'm lucky, maybe even some northern lights, but it's pretty cloudy, but still absolutely beautiful. Some kind of cool looking grass. I've never really seen it growing like that before. It reminds me of that plant that grows in the desert in the Badlands. I can't remember what it's called, but then over here, I think this little leafy stuff next to the moss, in between the leaves, I think that's kinnikinnick. And that can be dried and smoked and made tea out of, and it's got medicinal properties. Again, anybody who's watching any of these videos, if I make mistakes or you know, mislabel things, whatever, get my facts wrong, absolutely correct me in the comments or however. I welcome it. You know, I like to think I'm a student of life, so I'm always willing to learn from people who know more than I do, and so that I can relay correct information. Some incredibly cool person or group of people have brought these 2 Adirondack chairs up here to this incredible lookout spot. Absolutely amazing. They must have brought them by water. I don't know how that would have worked, but I could think of a few awesome uses for these chairs. Unfortunately, this is a solo trip for me, but hey, maybe next time. This is a useful trick for determining how much more daylight you have left. It's never advisable to look directly into the sun. I got some cloud cover, but hey, if it works, it works. So basically, if you hold your hands at arm's length like this, it works on, you know, everybody's hands. You go from the horizon to the sun. Each hand is 1 hour. So in my case, looks like I got a little less than 2 hours left. Each finger, 15 minutes. So got about 1 hour and 45 minutes of light left. Camp's going to be easy to set up, just throw the hammock between some trees, so not too worried about it. There's an upturned tree root. I've always thought these are really neat. As a kid, I used to imagine things living in them and stuff. Been looking for rose hips. Haven't seen very many of them, but if I do, I'll get some footage. Rose hips are those kind of red berries that grow on the thorny rose bushes. They're you can't eat them just off the bush. Apparently they make your butthole itch. People of the north make a jam called Itchy Bum Jam. I think it's made out of that stuff, I'm not sure. Bears eat them a lot. Some people call them bear berries. I don't know if it makes bear buttholes itch. Maybe it does. Maybe that's why they're grouchy sometimes. I don't know. But you can boil them. Is that some over there? I don't know. I'll check. You can boil them and they make a really good tea that is loaded with vitamin C and is super delicious. Also roses themselves, wild roses and domestic roses, you can eat those and they have nutrients in them, the actual rose flowers. I wouldn't advise eating them off of a bouquet because they're probably sprayed with stuff and to preserve them, but out in the wild you can definitely eat them, as well as the sticks from the rose bush. Here's some here. You can see the thorns on them. That one isn't very thorny, but they make really good arrow sticks. They're a hardwood. They generally grow pretty straight, and they can be bent, and if you find good thick ones, they make good arrow shafts. Just always remember not to pick too intensively from one area. You never want to pick all of something from one bush or one area, kind of space it out so they regrow. But yeah, roses are incredible plants. There's probably a bunch more uses that I don't know of. This rose branch would be an excellent arrow stick. Thick on the end, nice and straight. Yeah, that's perfect. Here's a really cool burl. Those round balls that grow on trees. People cut them down and they make bowls out of them. They end up really nice. This tree looks like it's been burnt within the past few years. So there had to have been a fire in this area. Perhaps quite a while ago. Perhaps not too long ago. It's hard to tell. But there definitely was fire. Fire, scary as it is in the forest, does clean it out, get rid of the dead growth. Certain pine trees need fire to reproduce. It activates the seeds and sends them flying. It's something to see. It's almost like a fireworks show to see burning pine tree shooting off pine cones across the sky. This is really cool. Looks like a dry run creek bed. But just look at all the moss, all the different variations of color growing on the rocks, everything. It's amazing. Well, I've made it to Sandy Beach camp spot. Right along the beach. The nice part about the sleeping bag that I have is I can just throw it here on the sand and sleep comfortably. I think as far as overnight real estate goes. I'm going to string my hammock right here between these two trees. Listen to the waves all night long. But for now, we'll go eat some more food. Here is tonight's home. Bit of a heavy lug, you know, to carry this whole thing. But at the end of the day, it's totally worth it to be able to sleep like this. I got the one end a little higher where I'm going to put my head. This is my view. And this is what I get to look at all night long. Looks even cooler if you go up here and look at it from this way. Anyways, pretty awesome trip to get here to Sandy Beach. With any luck, I'll be able to, you know, either run some of the way, really walk fast, get to Grey Owls, spend some time there, and spend some time in the cabin. Appreciate that. Get back quickly and make it out by nightfall tomorrow. If not, throw the hammock up somewhere along the trail and spend another night. Not a big deal. Got lots of food. There's enough water to go around. Life is good. This is the official campsite here at Sandy Beach. Looks like it's about 7 kilometers to Grey Owls from here, which be 14K round trip and then back home. I don't know if I'll be able to do it tomorrow, but we'll take a whack at it. If I end up spending an extra night, I'll go to pay for it at the office because it's a good cause. They take really good care. I mean, this trail is so well defined and marked, and these camp spots are really nice. You can see they got a cook pit here, and there's wood under there. Kind of big blocks of logs of wood though. I don't know, maybe somewhere else there might be split wood, but you pay $10. It's mandatory. You can't opt out for the wood. And you know, back in the day, I would have been totally gathering kindling and pitch and everything and trying to make a fire no matter how tired I was, because it's, you know, that was always part of camping for me. But nowadays, it's nice, don't get me wrong, it's a great thing to have. I can smell theirs. And it's another good reason to have a campfire. It keeps bears away and other animals. They'll smell it and they'll know people are around, and they generally won't want to come around when they smell that smoke. But, you know, I'm just as happy not going through that extra work, not, you know, getting the slivers and breathing the smoke and stuff like that. It's win-win either way, to have one or not have one, but I don't think I'm going to make one tonight. But really nice setup here. Here is one of the birds I've been seeing. I believe it is called a gray jay. He is checking out my food. I'm tempted to give him a crumb, but that might attract, he might not eat it. I might not find it. It could attract bears, raccoons. What an absolutely beautiful bird though. People who are from around here, is that a gray jay? So tonight's meal is going to be this Mountain House freeze-dried chili mac with beef. Basically the idea is you open the pack, read the instructions for the amount of water, boil the water, pour it in the pack, seal it up, and then a friend of mine recently showed me the benefit of putting it in a sweater or a jacket or something, wrapping it up, and then that gives it an extra level of warmth and cooks it a little quicker. But just make sure it's completely sealed. Try to have it sitting up and it doesn't spill all over your clothes and smell like chili mac and beef for the rest of your trip. But that's tonight's dinner. I don't know, I might have some noodles and some more stuff. I'll probably eat pretty good tonight. And yeah, should be good. Never eaten better. These Mountain House dinners are fairly inexpensive. You can find them at Walmart, Canadian Tire. I think I've seen them here in Canada for like 10, 12, maybe 14 bucks. I got this particular one at Menards in Williston for 7 bucks. They were on sale. Should have bought more, but oh well. It's inspiring me to make some more of my dehydrated meals, which, like I said, I made the spaghetti and chili and stuff like that before, and I've pulled them out a year or more later, and they were just in Ziploc bags, and they were perfectly fine. So, you know, for the money, it's a good deal. I'll make a video on making some. Well, guys, I'm in my hammock for the night. That's the view. You can probably hear the waves. It's been an awesome day for sure on Grey Owls Trail, Prince Albert National Park. I found out that the lake is called Kingsmere Lake, and I'm gonna snuggle in. I'm nice and warm. It's gonna be a little above freezing, so I think 3 degrees Celsius, about 35 Fahrenheit. I'm gonna snuggle in, put my glasses on, and do some reading. My friend Alex gave me this book, The Master Key to Riches, based on the Carnegie method of being wealthy and happy. So, never know. I'm willing to learn from anybody. I'm pretty good at being broke, so maybe I'll be good at getting wealth. Eventually, I'll have a video of me in my swimming pool, or as we like to call it where I come from, my cement pond, swimming naked with movie stars. So hold your breath and look forward to that one. Good night, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I'm being kind of quiet. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, Saskatchewan time. I've been up since, 3:30 or so. One thing about having the hammock so close to the lake is that you get ice cold lake effect wind coming off. So tonight I think I'm going to move a little further into the bush, get some tree cover from the wind. But all in all, I had a pretty good night's rest. I'm making my jet boiling my coffee for the morning. I just brought coffee grounds. I was going to bring some instant, which would have been a good idea. I put the coffee grounds in first and overboiled my first cup. So this is cup number 2. Wasted half the water. Blah, blah, blah. Not having good coffee luck lately. Yesterday I stopped at a certain restaurant chain, which I won't name because I'm classy, but it rhymes with McDonald's. And they sold me a cup of piss-warm old coffee at 5 in the morning. And I was not thrilled, or as my grandfather used to call shitty coffee, stud piss with the foam farted off. So anyways, it's shitty coffee is part of the sacrifices I make for you, the viewer. You're welcome. Well, it's about 7:15 Saskatchewan time. My neighbors are still asleep, so I'm trying to be quiet. But decided to start a fire. Nice. Light, warmth, and something to do, I guess. Sun's coming up, so I was going to start hiking to Grey Owls with them, but depending on how long they take, I might just start off on my own and meet up with them there. This is the food storage platform at camp. There's my red food bag up there. I thought it was going to be a metal lock bin. Basically, it's an elevated platform with a ladder that you take down when you're done. And cool part is they got it lined with chimney pipe here, so nothing can climb up. Yeah, neat system. Now I know how to build one. Well, it's 8:15 in the morning, of course. I left camp probably 5-10 minutes ago at Sandy Beach. The trail after Sandy Beach looks like it narrows down. Here's some standing water. I could end up with a boot full, but we'll see how that goes. But it seems to narrow down, get a little, overgrown. So I think a lot of people use Sandy Beach as a destination point. So it's a good day hike. It's a nice place to camp and turn around. If you make it that far, you've seen a lot. But I'm pretty determined to see Gray Owl's cabin. I was hoping to get my hands on some of his books to have read before I came out, but I wasn't able to. I didn't think about looking for them on Libby, maybe as audiobooks, but you can't think of everything. My awesome sister Amber, hi Amber, has ordered me the complete works of Gray Owl, so they should be arriving at my house soon. So it'll be cool to read those and have been to the place where they were written. So we have some of this, some puddles along the trail now, which I did see in one of the videos that I watched before coming. So, I could end up getting a boot full of water. Hopefully there's some bear piss in there, because then I can add bear piss to the ongoing list of types of urine that I've had in my boot. So far, I've had muskrat and beaver from crossing their runs, buffalo out in the Dakota Badlands, and quite possibly human. There are a few weekends that I don't quite remember. So maybe we'll add bear to that list with any luck today. So as you can see, the lake has kicked up pretty good. Those are some 3-4 foot waves. So if you're in a kayak or a canoe right now, you'd be having a real hard time. You'd probably have to beach. It's like I was saying, you never know when it can kick up like this. And, traveling by canoe is fun. It's a lot easier on the feet and you can carry a lot more stuff, etc. But right now you'd be sitting still. You wouldn't be going anywhere at all. And it is not very windy out here at all. There is like what feels like a calm breeze by prairie standards. These are the rose hips or rose buds I was talking about earlier. Here's some pretty little berries growing on the ground. There's more. And I believe that this is actually kinnikinick. And I think it's different than what I was looking at before. What I was looking at before was waxier. So I'm not sure if that's a different plant, or maybe I'm looking at the same plant in a different light with berries. Again, if you know about this, feel free to comment and give some clarification. But I'm pretty sure those are kinnikinick berries. If they are edible. Biggest stream so far. It's about 15 feet across. And at this point looks to be 2-3 feet deep. Amazing. Streams like this would be good to follow up and explore along the banks for things like fossils, arrowheads, artifacts, because there's a pretty good chance this was a stream back when people were hunting and gathering in this area. As I'm walking along here, I'm noticing that I'm going through pockets of cool and warm air. It's kind of strange, and if I have experienced it before, I don't remember. But it's maybe it's a time of day, time of year, but it's a noticeable difference. It's like walking into, like a walk-in cooler at a store or a restaurant, and then you'll come up somewhere else and it'll be significantly warmer by 5-10 degrees, and it doesn't seem to be affected by the sun, so I don't know what that is, but it's really cool. Here is a big ass overturned tree root. I think what it must be is a natural amphitheater where the little people, or the Mimigwesawak in Cree, have their concerts, and their audience stands over here, is what I can only imagine it is. I'll get a picture of myself by it for reference. I don't know if you can see, but it's higher than I am. The Cree people, or the Nehiawak, of which I am half, believe in the Mimigwesawak traditionally that I referenced earlier, the little people. Many people around the world have beliefs, legends of little people. Fairies, elves, dwarves, etc. In Cree culture, they are magical, and they definitely existed. There is a lake near my res, Musquecheese in Alberta. I can't remember which lake, might be Mamio, but it was known as the Lake of the Little People, I've been told. And things were found there, like little paddles, tiny little moccasins, and things of that nature, apparently. Now, some people might think these are fantastical, hard to believe ideas, but then again, there are people out there who find the stories of the Bible to also be quite fantastical and hard to believe. So, that could be said about the stories of Buddha and Hindu. No disrespect to any of those cultures, but I don't discount any of those beliefs. It's just it's a belief system, and I believe that magic was around and is still around in some people. The ability to see things like that, to perhaps communicate with animals. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, and about my family's relationship with bears, why I don't fear them that much when I'm out here. But anyways, things like that, I believe, were magical things that were around at one time. Medicine, as the Nehiawa call it, and have kind of disappeared over the years, have maybe been demonized, condescended upon, and once people stop believing, it stops working, in my opinion. Oh, there's another real warm spot. But yeah, that's the Mimigwesawak. This is the North End campground, which, if I remember correctly, was 3.4K from Sandy Beach. I don't know, I could be wrong. But, if you are an ultralight person and you have an entire summer day of daylight, this would be a good spot to maybe dump your gear, move on to Grey Owl's cabin, and then come back and hike out within 2 days. I'm going to end up doing my trip in 3 days because I don't feel like pushing myself too much. So I'm going to spend an extra night. So Parks Canada, I owe you an additional $24.50, and I will make good. And thank you for keeping an awesome park. I got cut off there. I'm not too sure why. Maybe I'm running out of memory or something. It's my first time really doing a serious video. And but anyways, like I was saying, there's no way to train for carrying heavy things up and down hills. You kind of just have to get out there and do it. And in my opinion, blisters make calluses, and calluses make your feet meat tougher. So get out there and toughen up your feet meat. So this is the North End campground. I have 3.1K to get to Grey Owl's cabin, and I've come 4K from Sandy Beach. That 4K took me about an hour, maybe a little more. Moving at a pretty good pace. So within, you know, maybe another hour, knock on wood, I'll have reached over a decade-long goal of mine. That's pretty awesome. Woo! Here is a bodega, not a bodega, a gazebo. I don't know, a roofy thing, not a roofy thing. A thing with a roof that you can cook in, and camp in, and all that kind of stuff. This is North End Campground. It's just beautiful here. Let's have a look at this facility. Sweet! Wood stove. Somebody has left a fishing pole. Various cooking supplies. This is one of these grill things that you can put a fish in and hold over a fire. Some bug spray, newspaper, broom. Pretty awesome. Pretty good. Yeah. North End Campground, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Coming out of North End, the trail switches to beach. And originally I was walking over there in dry sand. But as most of you know, it's a lot more difficult to walk in dry sand. What on earth is that? Looks like an apple core. Some kind of seaweedy thing. Huh, cool. Anyways, I've switched over to this wetter sand, which is a lot easier to walk on. It's more firm and you get more push per step, I guess. Looks like people have been biking here. Here is kind of like a natural little canal thingy where a stream comes into the lake. How fucking incredible is that? Here's some deer tracks, and as you go along you have this, which definitely looks like some kind of creature with claws. You can see toe claw impressions there. So I'm no expert. Could be a small bear, wolf maybe, who knows. But glad I got my bear bells. Gonna be on the lookout. There it is again. You can see the footprint. I was thinking could also be dog following the bikes. That looks a little big to be dog. Here's another one of these things. Normally I'd poke it with a stick to make sure it wasn't angry. Look how gnarly that is. Some kind of aquatic plant. If anybody knows what that is, whether it's edible, etc., please let me know. Here's another killer camping spot with a bathroom. Just about 5-10 minutes away from that other North End spot. I don't know if it's part of the same campground. Big pile of wood. Pretty impressive. So if you're going to camp, that first north end is full. You might want to make your way down a little and check out these two spots. Grey Owl Trail, far enough away to gain seclusion, yet within reach of those whose genuine interest prompts them to make the trip. Beaver Lodge extends a welcome to you if your heart is right. By Grey Owl. As the path leaves the lake and winds deeper into the northern woods, let your spirit drift back to a time when Grey Owl walked this trail. Imagine him as your companion and listen while he recounts the stories of his wife, Ajawan. There's some info about the trail. There's a portage, apparently, for if you're canoe tripping it from Kingsmere to Ajawan Lake. As far as I know, the cabin itself is lakeside, so there's more water. I was playing with the idea of I might just, well, I should be good. Famous last words of many hikers, but I have this thing full of filtered water, and like I say, I think there's water near the cabin, so I'm not going to grab more water, and it's only probably a half hour away. I should be fine, but yeah, it should be interesting. Apparently the reason this he called his cabin Beaver Lodge, I think there's a beaver lodge built into it. I don't know if there's a window over it or how that works, but he lived in the cabin with his wife and these beavers. Apparently the wife and the beavers didn't always see eye to eye, so he built another cabin for her or something like that. I don't know, I'll have to find out more details. There's kind of a local historian in the group behind me. I'll maybe press him. But anyways, yeah, he was big on preserving the life of the beavers, I guess, because at this point in Canada and basically throughout North America, beaver populations were way down. They were facing extinction due to overhunting. And the reason for that overhunting wasn't because people were hungry and needed to eat them. It was fashion. And don't get me started on how crappy of a thing fashion can be. And, you know, I get people got to make a living and stuff like that, but it was started as a pretty bougie thing. But anyways, the fashion at the time was to wear these big top hats, you know, like Abe Lincoln. And the best top hats were made of beaver fur. The further north you got, the better the quality of the beaver. And so anyone who was anyone had a beaver hat. And so they were almost killed off. So Grey Owl was all about preserving them. At first, apparently he was about killing them for money, like everybody else. And then his wife was like, "You're a horrible asshole. Look at these poor little beavers struggling in these metal traps. And you go and club them to death, and they freeze to death, and you're a turd," etc., etc. So she changed Grey Owl's mind, and he kind of decided to be a conservationist. Grey Owl has his pros and cons. I'll get into that a little more when we get to the cabin. He was, like the rest of us, an imperfect person. And, you know, but you gotta kind of take him for his good qualities. And, but at the same time, not forget the mistakes he made, and hopefully other people won't repeat them. But I'll get into that a little more when we get to the cabin. So if you're portaging, you go this way with your boat to Ajawan Lake. If you're hiking, you go this way straight to the cabin. It would be, I'm starting to think, if I was to solo trip it in my canoe, It would be a pretty good portage. I'd have to drag it, my boat. It's too heavy for me to carry. But I think it said 0.6K, so 600 meter canoe drag through the forest would be good exercise. Here's rose hips that have apparently blackened or are naturally black. I don't know, I've never really seen them like that much before. And over here, cool little mushroom. And up here is a better view of some of that really beautiful tree fungus. Look at those different layers. Stellar. And this is an inlet of Ajawan Lake. Clear as glass here. A little choppy out there, but really beautiful. Now getting back to the bears and the medicine, magic if you will, that I believe in. It was told to me, and it is my understanding that I was told my family doesn't eat bears. I think I had asked about bear meat or something, and oh, look at that fungus. Big old black. Wow. And I was told, yeah, my family doesn't eat bears. And then there's bear scat. I'd be willing to bet. Looks old, fortunately. It's not still steaming. Anyways, don't eat bears. It's my understanding that back in the days when certain Nahiawak, Cree people, indigenous people, could communicate with animals. My family, I don't know if it's just my family or the community where I'm from, Montana Band and Musquechees. But anyways, I was told that we made a treaty with the bears, basically to the effect of, hey, we won't eat or harm you, and you don't eat or harm us. And I've stuck to that my whole life, you know. I don't hunt bear, not judging people who do. You know, a lot of people up north, it's a staple of the diet. But yeah, that's how it goes. And so I've lived by that. I believe in it. And I feel like there's a certain energy that a person brings with them. You know, if I was to be aggressively searching for an animal with a rifle strapped to my back, I think that animal would pick up on that and perhaps react defensively. My mom, who is non-indigenous, she is of Norwegian descent, tells a story, a fascinating story. When I was a kid, I grew up in the Dawson Creek area, British Columbia. We lived off-grid, and I'll maybe go into more of that later sometime, another video, but we were walking through the forest, apparently. I don't remember it. I was young. And we were walking through the forest, and my mom said we came upon 4 bears all together. There was a mother bear and 3 cubs. And the 3 cubs were black, brown, and white. I'm not sure what color the mother was. But, you know, we all saw each other. And, you know, I believe that the 2 moms recognized each other, and the 4 cubs recognized each other, and we knew that we meant each other no harm, and we just kind of allowed each other to go on about our business. But So that's the reason why I don't hunt or eat bear meat. If I was starving, someone offered it to me, you know, it might be a different story. But, you know, if you see me out on the trail getting attacked by a bear, feel free to help and chase the bear away. Don't just stand there saying, "Tell them about the treaty, Eric. Tell them about the treaty." The cool part about this jacket, I got it when I was working at Liberty Tire Recycling in Alberta, is it has, I guess I don't need to take the whole thing off, it has these straps on each sleeve, and I've never seen them before. I think it's a ski jacket, I don't know, but the idea being that when you get hot, start to sweat, which you of course don't want to do in the winter time, that can give you pneumonia and make things bad. You can kind of do this and walk with cool off. Walk with your jacket off and not have to put it in your pack or tie it around your waist or anything else. I'm wearing my Harsh Light shirt today. Harsh Light is a really good band from Bismarck, North Dakota, with an absolute smoke show of a lead singer. Check them out if you ever get the chance. I'm going to continue on. Ajawan, a small deep lake that, like a splash of quicksilver, lies gleaming in its setting of the wooded hills that stretch in long heaving undulations into the north. Its waters day by day reflect its countless moods and the ever-changing colors of the sky. Gray owl. Say what you want about the man, but he had a way with words for sure. That's kind of funny that he mentioned that about the mood of the lake. When I was looking at those choppy waters with very little wind on Chestermere, I was thinking, well, maybe it's something else, you know, maybe the lake just doesn't want to be paddled on today. This is Ajawan Lake with the sun glimmering off of it. Really beautiful. I stopped for the picture and then I noticed that here is a beaver run. That's where the beaver will go into, and then there'll be an outlet under the water somewhere and they'll swim around. It's about the size of a little bigger than a badger hole. Here is a beaver dam. Looks like another exit point down there. Maybe the offspring of McGinley and McGillicuddy, or whatever his beaver's names were. Maybe they live on. I know he had one named Jelly Roll. So, yeah. Something big lost its footing here and slid backward a ways. There's another track. There's some over here. Looks like moose to me, based on this right here. This looks like the side of his hoof. The other side over there. So, moose, don't want to run into either. Definitely just as dangerous as a bear, especially during the rut. A lot of people have bad experiences with moose. They are, you know, as heavy as a car, and they can have horns 8 feet wide, and they can really mess you up if they want to. So I ask respectfully of the ancestors of the moose in this area to let me pass through peacefully. And that's something I was taught by an elder, that when you're traveling in foreign lands, I've forgotten to do this, so I'm going to do it now. It's good to ask the ancestors of the people who were there before you for safe passage, and the spirits of those ancestors will help you on your way. So ancestors of this land, both indigenous and settler alike, I ask for safe passage for the remainder of the hike and on the way home, and I thank you for this incredible experience that I'll hopefully be able to share with others and maybe inspire some people to come and explore this area themselves. Very fresh scat. Wolf, coyote maybe? Probably coyote. Could be dog, but as far as I know, there's nobody else on the trail, so wish me luck. There's a lot of wild animal sign in this section as I get near the cabin. So I'm going to make a little extra noise and maybe sing a song. La la la, I'm hiking to the cabin. So if there's any wild animals, please don't come and kick my ass. I come in peace. La 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 la. Here's a sign for some pit toilets, outhouses, whatever you want to call them, which generally means that a place where people hang out is near. Could it be? Oh, there's a sign. It says Gray Owl's Cabin. Should be just around the corner. I see a roof, a chimney. Yes. Woo! There it is. Gray Owl's Cabin. Let's get a little closer down this hill. Try not to injure myself on the last journey. Gray Owl lived at Beaver Lodge. There's a cool picture of him. His wife, somebody else in a canoe. Gray Owl lived at Beaver Lodge from 1931 until his death in 1938. Hired by the Dominion Park Service to promote the message of conservation, Gray Owl touched the world through his writings, films, and lectures. Please respect the tranquility that also inspired much of Gray Owl's work. And I, of course, just let out a big victory whoop and completely ruined the tranquility. But we'll try to keep it down from now on. Doesn't look like there's any animals here. Look how close to the water it is. Amazing. It's like 12 feet from the front door to the lake. Absolutely clear water. I have to do this by canoe. And the cabin itself is like 2 or 3 feet from the water. So let's have a look, shall we? I've seen pictures where people were able to get inside of it. But look at this absolute craftsmanship on these notches, joints, and logs. I absolutely love log homes. Okay, I'll get into more of that later, but I was able to. Oh, and it opens and you can go inside, and there's the Beaver Lodge. Holy crap, there's an old antique wood stove. Wonder if they'd let you make a fire. I don't know if I would dare. Oh, the pipe looks new. Wonder if people camp in here. There's a rake, bench, his little shelf where he would have kept his grub, as the trappers call it. When I was a kid, we had a box we'd put it in called the grub box, keep the mice out. There's a drum. To Gray Owl and Anahario, rest in peace, Dad. Your loving son, number 2, Todd, Saskatchewan. Thanks, Tom, for making happen. Story of Gray Owl, postcards. Cool little shelf. Wow, a couple other shelves. This would have been his bed. Amazing craftsmanship. Just to decide. And look, there's where the beaver would have come in and out. There's a run. This would have been their lodge underneath here. Very cool. Just amazing. We got the sun coming in through the window. Maybe next time I'll bring a little spray thing of Windex and clean these windows. How cool. I made it. I actually made it. I hope you understand me. I am not particularly anxious to be known at all, but my place is back in the woods. There is my home, and there I stay. But in this country of Canada, to which I am intensely loyal, and whose natural heritage I am trying to interpret, so that it may be better understood and appreciated here. At least, I want to be known for what I am. Grey Owl, 1934. So I've made it to the cabin, and I'm going to sit here and talk a little bit about what I know, my limited knowledge about Grey Owl. There are a lot of people who know a lot more than I do, including one of the gentlemen that's following in the group behind. But like I said, he had his pros and cons. Unlike me, he wasn't perfect. I'm kidding. I'm as imperfect as anybody. I have countless character defects but I am working on them and stuff. But anyways, the elephant in the room. Grey Owl was a pretendian, and that's a fact. He was, some people say, perhaps the original pretendian. For those of you who don't know, a pretendian is somebody who pretends to be Indian, pretend Indian. A lot of this is coming to light recently with the discovery that Buffy Sainte Marie made up her Indigenous heritage and is in fact Italian. May or may not have threatened her family that if they reveal her, they would face financial ruin. CBC does a lot better work on that than I can ever do. Thomas King, an author who I was told was an Indigenous author and was made to read in university. No Indigenous heritage. And there are many others. I'm trying to think, but the list goes on and on. It's been revealed in the Canadian universities that certain people were gatekeeping access to courses, admittance, traditional ways of knowledge that weren't in fact Indigenous, that had made up Indigenous heritage. And in my opinion, if you want to pretend to be of another culture and you're fascinated by it, you want to go out and explore the woods and things like that, I don't see a lot of harm in it. Dressing up in little pink feathers for Halloween and stuff, that's kind of cultural appropriation. I'm a little bit guilty myself, I kind of laugh at different things. I pretend to be Indian myself. I often go and eat shawarma and curry and naan bread, and sometimes I'll do a little Bollywood dance. But I digress. So there's kind of being fascinated by other cultures, and as I alluded to, pretending to be India, and I mean from India, of course. But I think the difference lies in if I was to go somewhere and say, I am in fact half Indian from India. My mother was Punjabi and my father was Irish. Therefore, I'm from India. I want to be recognized as such as an artist. I'm going to apply for these grants and jobs that have been created for Punjabi people, and et cetera, which Grey Owl kind of did. I think his claim was that he was from Mexico, and he was born in Mexico to an Apache mother and an Irish father. He was, in fact, born in Hastings, England in 1888 and immigrated to Canada. And another thing about that kind of pretendian stuff is it does take the spotlight from actual Indigenous people who, have incredibly talented Indigenous people that are excellent musicians, create beautiful art, can write like you've never seen before, and are just true Renaissance people. And it takes the spotlight from them and gives it to somebody who is faking it, and even worse off, faking it for financial gain. And speaking on behalf of something they really aren't. So That's a sad fact about Grey Owl. I won't go on about it much more. Whether he meant to be malicious or not, we'll never know. But anyways, the good parts about Grey Owl, he was, as we read on the signs and some of his quotes, he was incredibly good with words. A skilled writer. Um, Truly a loyal Canadian once he got here. Some of the reading I did about him, he worked in a lumber mill, much like I once did. He was a clerk, however. I was a kind of lumber piler and grader. But anyways, he apparently lowered a bag of fireworks down the chimney of this lumber mill and almost blew the place to smithereens. And I don't know if he got fired or whatever, but he was a saboteur of the workplace. And so then he came to Canada, and he worked as a guide and in a couple other places, doing just various things. He had a bit of a, apparently, I don't know all this to be fact, but he had a bit of a drinking problem for a little while and was a bit of a shit disturber for a time, and fathered a few kids, I think, to a couple different wives and stuff, but he did learn from a lot of Indigenous people and had an Indigenous wife. His wife said something to the effect of, I am Indian, and this man is as Indian as anyone else, and respects nature as much as anyone I know. He joined the Canadian Army and fought in World War I as a sniper, which is pretty good achievement to be able to reach that rank. He some of his people who fought with him, the one guy said that they watched him sneak up on a hill to an enemy stronghold, and his words were he moved like only an Indian could, and so he snuck up and disabled this enemy outpost on this hill, and was so he was a soldier, and then he came back and built this cabin and did a lot of great writing, which I'm going to become more familiar with. And, ended off as a pretty peaceful guy, good guy, I guess. Hopefully we're all kind of forgiven for our misgivings and people remember the good parts. But, there's good and bad to everybody. And, hopefully as history goes on, more people will just accept who they are and not steal the spotlight from people who could maybe use a break. We all could, really. Here is the other cabin, which Grey Owl apparently built for his wife, who got tired of living with beavers. I can imagine the conversation went something like, "You love those beavers more than you love me. They're sleeping in the bed with us. I'm leaving." And Grey Owl probably said, "Wait, honey, maybe how about if I build you your own cabin up on the hill and stuff." So that's probably what happened, but let's go have a look at this and see. And here is Grey Owl's other cabin. Beautiful, beautiful. Looks to be about, 15 by 15. Absolutely masterful work. I like how they use this kind of smaller sticks for chinking. Chinking is filling in between logs. I'm a big fan of log homes. I was fortunate enough to once in my life have worked in a place near Salmon Arm. At the time it was called Bigfoot Log Homes. I wasn't on the building end. I was kind of on the cleanup crew and equipment operation, but I did learn a lot, and I got to meet a lot of really cool people, and it was a very interesting place to work. I like to think I know more than somebody who's never worked in a place like that, but I am by no means a log home builder. Anyways, one of my favorite pieces of filmography, if you will, is called Alone in the Wilderness by Dick Prenneke. And it's a 50-some-year-old man who I think in the 1960s or something, quite a while back, filmed himself going up into Alaska with all this old camera gear and building a log cabin by himself, and you know, loading all this gear up mountains and hunting animals and just all kinds of neat stuff he does. So it's really worth a watch. Alone in the Wilderness, a Dick Prentice story. But back to Grey Owl, you know, he had his imperfections, but all in all, he did a lot to raise awareness for the plight of animals, plight of Indigenous people in Canada. And, you know, I'm trying to remember him for his good qualities. I once, a lot of people, you know, have done disappear into the wilderness cabin to do some writing, you know, Walden's Pond, and so forth. And I remember telling somebody that I wanted to grab my typewriter and go to a cabin in the woods and do some writing, and they kind of cringed at me, and didn't realize till later that I was probably giving Timothy McVeigh vibes, you know. And Unabomber, was he the guy in the cabin? I think so, out in Montana. Anyways, that's not what I had in mind. Person who cringed, whoever you were, I can't remember. But yeah, you know, it's always been a dream of mine, and maybe someday I'll get to live it. The old trapper cabins used to only be about 3 or 4 rounds high. They were just kind of overnight stays, kind of like pit stops along the way. So they're just, you know, kind of big enough to crawl into and sleep. But, you know, something you're going to live in like this would have been a lot bigger. Very beautiful. Very beautiful view. I posted on Facebook that I was making this hike, and a friend of mine that I went to high school in Weyburn with, Brad Thompson, told me that his great-grandparents were friends with Grey Owl and Anahario, and in fact came out here a time or two and had tea with him. So, you know, I don't know if you've been out here before, Brad, but there's a good view of where your great-grandparents would have been. Apparently his great-grandfather was friends with Grey Owl going back to England, back to Hastings. So pretty cool. Hopefully maybe someday we'll have the chance to make the trip together, Brad. But yeah, thanks for the information. Something I forgot to mention that I added since my loadout video. First aid kit. This I probably could do a little better, but it's got a lot of the basics covered. Big band-aids along the bottom here, about the size of the container. Small bandages, allergy pills, and Advil for pain. I was going to put some Tums or some kind of stomach pills in there, but you know, you can get carried away with your first aid kits too, but some stomach pills wouldn't hurt. But you know, there's chances are I'm not going to be stitching myself together like Rambo out here or anything. So hopefully, again, knock on wood. And then my blister care. I'm going to sit on Grey Owl's cool bed and do some more foot care. Got a blister in the making. 2, 3.
Hey!
That was a Grey Jay. Here he is. I found out they're also called Whiskey Jack. And yeah, they will apparently eat right out of your hand. They're a super friendly bird. He was a couple feet from me. That's awesome. I absolutely love them. I hadn't seen one in 20 years or so. Last time I was in northern Alberta. And, really beautiful, really cool bird. I'm not going to try to feed one out of my hand, but it's cool to get that close to a bird. They have an absolute radar for food too. I remember learning that. But yeah. Holy shit! Did you see that? Ate right out of my hands. That's just incredible. That was one of the coolest things that's ever happened. Apparently it's pretty common with these birds, but it doesn't matter to me. I've never seen them before. I've never had a wild animal eat out of my hands. I have a new favorite bird. It's the whiskey jack, or the gray jay. Fucking amazing. Out fucking standing. So it is now 7:25 in the morning on Sunday. You can't really see the trail, but this is the lake. Just amazing colors. I'm so glad I decided to leave early this morning. What I did was I put my headlamp on and decided to try to hike some of the trail in the dark. It's not advised really, but it's kind of funny because yesterday this smoking hot young lady comes walking past us on the trail with just a backpack with nothing in it, and we thought she was going to be staying overnight, and a couple of us were wondering, well, what on earth does she have in there to sleep in? How is she going to be warm, etc., etc. But anyway, she came walking back. So to her credit, she did the entire trail in one day, 40K, there and back to the cabin, to the trailhead. But I asked her, are you going all the way back? And she said, yeah. And she's like, I have a headlamp and I'm going to just hike back to the trailhead. So I thought, well, if this young lady can do it, maybe I can take a chance at it. So I loaded up. I was up at 5:30. I left at 6:15. Yeah, no. I was up at 5:30. I left at 6:45. It's 7:25 now. And I have the benefit of the group of hikers behind me. Let's see if I can get their names. Terry, Abe, Tim, Malcolm, and Lodan. I might have her name wrong, I'm not sure. But anyways, they're coming behind me, so should something happen, they'll be able to help. So and that's part of, I guess, field training, field trials is doing things in a controlled environment that's relatively safe. So this way, should an emergency come up, should I have to do some night hiking with my headlamp, I know that I can. It went pretty well. My headlamp is Energizer lamp. Maybe I'll show it a little better when I have some better light and when I stop. But it tilts forward so you can, either see directly in front of you or the trail right in front of your feet. But yeah, so thanks, hot girl, whoever you are. She didn't tell me her name. I didn't press, but she inspired me to try something new. And I'm going to keep on moving, but here's one more look at the lake. Oh, another good thing about the trail hiking was that I got to see, like a lot of frost and on the grasses and on the paths under the light of my headlamp, which was really spectacular and I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So this is my kit once again. This is my bedroll, sleep system, whatever you want to call it. It's I think I've mentioned it's U.S. military MSS, or modular sleep system. It's meant for before season. Comes with a series of internal sleeping bags and a bivvy and things like that. And if you want more information on it, the way I discovered it was through YouTuber calls himself Grunt Proof, and he does really good explanations of some of his military experience and gear. But so I won't go through a whole detailed thing and video of how to use it and stuff. He does a great job of that. But for me, I am 6'3", 6'4", and 200 pounds. I'm not trying to brag or nothing, but I got pretty wide shoulders. And so for me to get inside that sleeping bag with my parka on, it's just a really tight squeeze. I'm glad I had the chance to test it this way. And when I bought it, I did climb inside. It's meant to be a mummy bag, which means, it's got a hood that comes over and it can tighten just so that you're like a hoodie, I guess. So if he, and on Grunt Proof, he does a video where he just throws it on the snow, climbs in his boots and I'm assuming he had, military ECW gear, extreme cold weather gear. He climbs in their boots and all, mummies up and sleeps overnight and then keeps going. But for me, it's even without my parka or my boots, I'm too tall for the hooded portion of it, and just a bit too big for it in general. So, you win some, you lose some. I paid $300 for it. It's a great product. I'd highly recommend it if you're of the right body size. So maybe before you buy one or order one, go into a store. I got mine at Quinn the Eskimo in Saskatchewan. Go into a store that sells them, ask if you can climb in with your boots on, test the mummy thing. For me, I'm going to be looking for other options. I tried to find out if they make them in a tall size. Grunt Proof mentioned that they do, but every surplus outlet I've talked to has drawn a blank on that one. So I don't know, maybe some of you military guys, if you're watching this, they got to make them for bigger soldiers, don't they? I don't know. But yeah, a little too big for it, so it might be up for sale. We'll see how it goes. What else do I have to say? Oh, it's a lot of buttons and zippers and things, which again, they're really heavy duty zippers and they're easy to use. But when you're squeezed in there and it's dark, it can be a lot of work. So also, if anybody has any recommendations on, lightweight cold weather sleeping bags that I don't have to sell a kidney to buy, leave a comment. Thank you. I mentioned the guy Grunt Proof, and I just got to give a lot of credit to these early YouTubers that do wilderness stuff and just go on different adventures and post it. I don't really have any delusions of getting wealthy, or I don't know, just being able to make a living doing this. I'm just kind of doing it for fun, to share some of my experiences and hopefully inspire some other people to get out there and explore a little bit. I'm a firm believer in take precautions, check your forecasts, things like that. But if you have to, grab your little sister's Dora the Explorer backpack and make a couple bologna sandwiches and find an old 2-liter pop bottle and fill that sucker full of tap water. Just head out, check it out, see what you can find. I've been very fortunate at different points in my life to have had disposable income for gear, gas, vehicle, things like that. I know not everybody has that opportunity, and but if you can, if there's a little chunk of semi-wilderness in your area, try to get out there, try to have a look at it. I'm here in jeans and stuff, wearing cotton, and a lot of people, I've heard of cotton called the death cloth, and wool is better, and there's synthetics that are better and stuff, but the reason why they say that about cotton is if it gets wet, it clings to your body and it freezes, and it's not good. And wool is definitely better, but you know, and if you know the forecast, you know it's not going to get too wet and cold, and you're not doing subarctic stuff. But don't wait until you have enough money for gear. One of the rules I followed was I'm going to hold on to this bell, was that I would go in, if I didn't know, you know, if it was my first time on a trail or whatever, logging road or even urban exploration, whatever you want to do, go in as far as half your water. And then, you know, try not to go much further, because you know that you have enough water to get you that far. You know you have enough water to get you back. You can go days, weeks without food. Can't go very long without water. So yeah, you know, if at all possible, just get out there and do it. I was inspired to start doing this a lot by, you know, some good Canadian boys like Joe Robinette and Steve Wallace and Owen, Buck Owens, I can't remember. You know the guy. You know who you are with the beard. And as well as other guys like the guy from Corporal's Corner, Bum Life. It's a really cool little channel. His backpack loadout is pretty epic. You know, he's got, I think, a 3-bedroom apartment in there, for crying out loud. But yeah, you know, people who are willing to just take chances, get out and explore, make mistakes, and have other people learn from them, have my utmost respect. So this is going to be, you know, like my second YouTube video other than the fix your car one. But I guess if you could hit like and subscribe, apparently that's a thing that helps people who do this kind of stuff. Anyway, thank you for hanging out. So I've changed back into my jeans for this last part of the journey. It's supposed to rain here coming up. These black jeans are my pantalones del exploración, and also my pantalones del seducción, as well as sometimes my pantalones del relaxación, which is to say, I don't own very many pantalones. I said I would talk about my headlamp a little bit. If you're overnight camping, this is basically a must. You know, you can use a flashlight, but then you only have one hand, or you got to put it in your mouth or whatever. So a headlamp is good. I've been using, these are the only kind I've ever owned. I found this one at a garage sale for like $1. My other one, the strap was getting loose. It's worked for me for years, though. I've used them for work and everything. The great part about this one is it's not rechargeable. It uses 3 AAA batteries, and you strap it to your head, of course. It has red, let's see if I can turn it on here, red, and then different variations of light. But it tilts forward like this. So if you have something like this, you want to read, you know, you don't have to, you can do that. And then the great part I discovered with my night hiking experiment, which I would never ever night hike without a headlamp. You don't want to be on the trail in the dark. It's just way too dangerous. There's branches that can take your eyes out, roots, all that. But anyways, I discovered that it lights up kind of the ground right in front of you. Whereas a conventional lamp that doesn't tilt like this, you either have to have your head down or, you know, look, you know, like that. So it works really good. And then you can buy recharge. I'm, you know, 20 years behind on gear. There's ultralight ones that weigh 1/20th of this and are rechargeable and whatever. But you can buy rechargeable batteries, of course. And I've seen now that they even have rechargeable batteries with little charging ports in the battery themselves. So, you know, I'm used to having to bring them home and put them in a machine and plug it into the wall and like a caveman. But apparently, you know, if with those kind of batteries, you could charge them during the day while you're out day hiking or whatever from your whatever charging station you brought with you. So yeah, good little headlamps. I don't know if they still make these Energizer. I hope they do. I might get another one just in case they stop. I've learned that branches like these that are hanging over the trail, that are, you know, chest level, waist level, whatever, too high to climb over, it's easiest for me. And, you know, I can do squats. I got pretty strong legs, but I just get on my hands and knees and crawl underneath them now. Because, you know, the back of my pack catches and it's awkward. It's just the easiest way. And I've learned to crawl further than I think I need to, because I always stand up and catch my pack anyways. So that's my advice for these. Downed pine trees like this with the stumps exposed are supposedly the place to find fat wood or pitch wood. That's wood that's been soaked in pitch or pine sap. The pine sap comes to basically cleanse any injuries that the tree might have. So when it falls, apparently the tree's natural reaction is to send the pitch down to the bottom. And I've never found any. I haven't looked that much. I've been given some. I have some at home, and but apparently this is the place to find them. I'm really eager to go out into the bush with somebody that knows more about it and learn how to harvest fatwood. The benefit to fatwood is it's highly flammable, and I don't mean that it go woof like a thing of gas or an explosion, but you can tear off a piece of it and it'll stay lit. It can, you know, like a candle. So it'll burn for a long time, and if you're trying to light a fire with the wet material, it'll dry it out and, you know, dry your sticks out and provide a good fire. It's excellent stuff for fires. So once I learn more about that and learn how to do it, I will try to share that with you. This, I believe, is blueberry. Of course, it's too late in the year, and the bears and other creatures have eaten them all. But I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's blueberry. The Marines refer to themselves as grunts, and I like to think I'm a bit of a self-trained pseudo grunt. I don't pretend to be at the fitness levels or have the skills that they do, but it's I admire a lot of the qualities and discipline that it takes for those guys to do that. As a friend of mine once told me, when you are with a woman, you must grunt. You do not grunt, woman will think you are weak. But I digress. What was that? Oh yeah, you know, I mentioned that I have a video on the cabin. A lot of respect for military people, what they do and their training and stuff, but I don't think that all military motives are good, you know, by any means. Throughout history, there's been a lot of evil shit done by armies and stuff, and you know, some of the participants were unwilling, some of the leaders were willing, and it's a person would hope that the military's role is to protect people who can't protect themselves. You know, it goes back to, I can't remember what movie it was, but the guy makes the analogy of you know, there's sheep and there are wolves, and I don't think wolves are inherently bad. They have their place in the ecosystem, but for this analogy, we'll use wolves as the bad guy. You know, there are sheep who don't fight. There are wolves who fight unnecessarily and are mean. And then in between there are sheepdogs who can fight just as good as the wolves, but are there to protect the sheep. So, you know, that's kind of where I would hope the stance of our military would be. Depending on who you talk to, it's not always the case. But that's what I would hope for. Do I wish there wasn't a need for the military and that all humans could get along? Of course I do. But I also believe that greed, which I am guilty of myself from time to time, but greed is a part of human nature and all the evils that come along with it, as well as the lust for power over others. Seemingly it doesn't belong, it doesn't matter what culture, ethnicity, whatever you belong to, that urge for greed and power exists. And so, you know, there has to be checks and measures to keep individuals or a group of individuals from getting too out of control and ruining the lives or ending the lives of people who don't deserve it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but on these beach stretches, there's not many of them of Grey Owl's Trail, but where the trail meets the beach. Walking on this soft sand uses a lot of energy because it absorbs. There's those snail shells. I don't know if I got them in my last video, but they're everywhere. Anyway, walking on the soft sand uses a lot of energy. Weather permitting, if you can get closer to the water like this, it's hard, and it doesn't take as much energy to walk through. Another thing that I've learned from the more experienced guys, a good tip is to always try to learn from more experienced people. Ask questions, even if they find you annoying. You know, explain to them that I'm here to learn. Most people will be pretty accepting, as well as they might have old gear they're not using, or they might want to lend you. So it's always good to be around the more experienced people, for sure. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, during the summer months, apparently, like, and I'm familiar with bugs in the northern Canadian boreal forest. They are no joke. You get horseflies, black flies, mosquitoes, gnats. Just, you know, they swarm, and you can end up breathing them in and all kinds of things. So one or two people said they don't even like to do this trail in the summer for that reason. But you know, again, maybe don't let that stop you if that's the window of opportunity you have. But bring bug spray. I am one of these people who bugs seem to be extremely attracted to. I get mosquito bitten more than my fellow travelers. I think that's why they invite me, because I attract all the bugs. But anyways, but so for years I used to soak myself in DEET and, you know, the strongest bug spray I could, day after day, summer after summer. I'm trying to get away from that. Someone told me about bug jackets, just kind of these mesh jackets you can put on. You can get these bug hoods, and that might not make it so you don't need bug spray, but it'll make it so you need less. There's also thermocells I use sometimes, which I guess you're breathing the bug deterrent. But anyways, just keep that in mind if you do this in the summertime. Grey Owl's Trail or Prince Albert National Park, there will be bugs. They will torment you. Do what you can. Improvise, adapt, and overcome, I guess. Hello! I'm hearing what I think is elk bugle. What I hope is elk bugle. Here's that same creature, and it was definitely this morning, because the water is 2 feet away and the waves were big last night. I don't know what it is. Could be a real big coyote. Something. Look at this cool stick I found. Driftwood. Ha! I'm better than everyone. I got a cool stick. I think I'll take it home. There is a bald eagle. Thank you, Creator. What a wonderful gift on this day. A woodpecker lunch log. That's where there would have been some bugs in there. I don't know if woodpeckers can hear them or smell them or how they know. But he would have stopped, pecked a hole in there, and dug the woodpeckers out. I mean, dug the bugs out. You saw a sign back there that said I'm 3.3K, about 2 miles from the trailhead from my vehicle. Trailheads, for those of you who don't know, are where you park and leave your vehicle to enter the trail. And yeah, so within an hour, God willing, knock on wood, I'll have successfully completed this trip. Over here, looks like woodpecker home on these standing up trees. Probably both, could be both. Looks like he burrowed in there, might be living in there. We'll leave him alone and move on. I don't know why I do the knock on wood thing so much. My mom's always done it, and from what I understand, it's a Norwegian thing. I am half Norwegian, half Cree, give or take a little here and there according to 23andMe. But the Norse, to the best of my knowledge, had god of wood, and an act of prayer to the Norse god of wood would be to either rub wood, as some people say, or to knock on it, or touch it, touch wood. Expressions you still hear today. So that's, you know, Viking. Not all Norwegian people were Vikings, but that's Norse holdover. And wood, of course, you know, would have been important to us all, because it's important to remember that we were all primitive people at one time, hunting with atlatls, bows, spears, you know, building things out of wood, burning wood. In the case of the Norwegians, whether they were fishing or going out a Viking, which I understand Viking is a verb for kind of exploring and, you know, all the other kind of things they did, pillaging and what have you. But, you know, prayers to wood would have been important. If you're on a boat made out of wood in the North Atlantic, there's huge waves rolling in, and it's blizzarding and freezing cold, you're probably going to be praying to the god of that boat of wood. You know, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you need to make a fire and you're cold, you might be asking the god of wood for help. But anyways, that's where that comes from, apparently. And then I was thinking those tracks that I saw back there, I don't think were bear. You know, the fun thing about doing stuff like this is it always reminds you that I need to learn more, that I can learn more. Gives me ideas, but anyways, bear tracks, I think, are longer, kind of more like a foot, human foot, with claws on the end. But again, not an expert, so feel free to correct. You know, I was thinking about Europeans pretending to be indigenous pretendians, you know, things like that. I think maybe it's time that some of us Native Americans, Native Canadians, indigenous people of North America go over there and, you know, maybe put on a top hat and a monocle and be like, you know, I'm British and I think you should pay me to do British art and music, and I'm going to write books from the perspective of us British people, pip pip tally ho, so forth. And have you got any land? You know, I kind of laugh at other cultures, and you could tell by my horrible British impression that turned Irish at the end that I try to think I'm laughing with people and stuff. No culture is really perfect. Indigenous people had to be concerned with raiding war parties from other tribes and stuff, and things like that. But I have a lot of respect for, like I say, no culture is perfect, but I have a lot of respect for, pretending to be from India. People from India had the fortune to meet quite a few of them, and they're really great people, and they're army guys routinely hang out on Everest, and I don't know, it's just amazing food, and I'd really love to go to India and England someday, and Vietnam. With any luck, I'll be able to go there fairly soon, I'm hoping. And I just want people to know that even though I may jest a little bit, I mean the utmost respect to other cultures. Going back to the sheep are the good guy, wolves are the bad guy analogy. I don't believe that all wolves are necessarily bad. I don't believe that all sheep are necessarily good. I had one headbutt me once for no reason. I had to climb up onto the gate to get away from it. Ridiculous. This is Labrador tea, which, surprisingly enough, you can make tea out of. I'm told it's delicious and has little bits of caffeine in it. I'm not going to pick any. Well, maybe I should have some. No, I'm not going to. And then there's blueberry again. I've kind of noticed that they seem to grow together. On second thought, I'm going to have a little bit of tea to bring home. I didn't bring any tobacco for offerings, which is traditionally what I would do as a Cree person. But someone told me that in the event of not having tobacco, I can pick up garbage that I find in nature and use that as my offering. So I choose to believe that, but wherever possible, I guess do both, Well, it has started to rain. I'm really glad I left early and got most of the hike out of the way. This is a new experience too, hiking with a pack in the rain. So a lot of new experiences today, really, really grateful. But I decided to put on my 1930s, by the looks of it, emergency rain poncho. Apparently it doesn't have a hood, but it's better than nothing. When something I learned firefighting, we used to bring just garbage bags out and poke some armholes and a head hole in there and put that on. It's better than nothing. It'll keep the rain off. It'll keep you warm. And if you see these emergency ponchos at Walmart or Canadian Tire or wherever, pick them up. Put them in with your stuff. Emergency blankets. I used one this trip to put in my hammock to give me a little extra layer of warmth. These things are often inexpensive and can come in really handy. They're lightweight. They're good to have in your pack, in your vehicle, whatever. I don't really knock Walmart gear. I watched a video, a girl bought a Walmart hiking backpack and stuff like that. They're starting to have lightweight, I saw a lightweight tent there. I wouldn't go so far as ultralight, but lighter than your typical Walmart tent, which I don't mind either. My emergency ration bar, which I'm glad I brought and which I ate, and it doesn't taste as horrible as I make it out to be. They're pretty good, and they're $5 and they're 2,400 calories. So last 5 years, can't go wrong. There's just a lot of really good gear at Walmart and at Canadian Tire that's inexpensive. It's going to be a little heavier, but hey, run, do squats, toughen up, use the cheap gear, get out there. And yeah, even with your typical, kind of Walmart tent that are fairly heavy, if you're lucky enough to have someone that you don't mind snuggling up with, maybe they carry the tent. Maybe you wrap up some blankets and a pillow and some garbage bags. You carry that. Split the water, split the food. You know, don't forget your headlamps, a cheap knife, a lighter, whatever other kind of goodies, and head out. It's better than not doing it. Let someone know where you're going, when you think you'll be back. You know, if you don't hear from me by whenever. But yeah, there's a lot of really good advice you can get from YouTube and senior, more experienced people. Now I'm just kind of rambling. I'm going to try to get to the car before I get wet. Another good trick I learned from Grunt Proof, who I don't always agree with all his opinions, but anyways, good trick is mass gainer. Mass gainer is usually sold with your protein powders, meal replacement, but it's a real high calorie drink mix that's going to keep you full, keep you hiking for a long time. Doesn't weigh a lot. You know, it'd be good to have, I got to get some again when I get home, but it's good just to have a store of, you know, should something go wrong and you need some calories, or to bring on a hike with you if you want to save some weight and, you know, just don't want to do a bunch of food prep or whatever. You can just hammer the mass gainer and away you go. Meal replacement is good too. I like having that, and protein powder and stuff, but meal replacement, you get hungrier quicker. It's healthier. It has a better blend of vitamins, protein, carbs, etc. So it's, in my opinion, healthier as a meal replacement. Healthier than protein powder or mass gainer. But your mass gainer is going to keep you fuller longer, and you don't have to carry as much. It's used by bodybuilders and weightlifters to gain mass, ironically. Here's the Kingsmere River Trail, which is off the same trailhead. It's 1.4K. I'm not going to do the whole trail, but I'm told this is where you put your canoe in, and there's some kind of trolley system or something so you don't have to portage. I don't remember how it works. I'll have to ask Malcolm. But I'm going to ditch my pack over here in the bush somewhere. And that's another thing I like about the kind of army issue packs, camel, black, green. It's easy to hide, you know, should I have to in a park in the city, or you know, on the trails. Most people coming out here to the national parks, hitting the trails, they're not out to steal, but we are pretty close to the trailhead, to the road, you know. But generally, like, I left all my stuff at camp and went to Grey Owls. You know, the chances of somebody going to do a full day hike into the woods in order to steal stuff is pretty slim. But anyways, just to take an extra precaution, I'm going to hide my pack. I've kind of decided that pack should be concealable in the forest and easy to hide. The things within it should be brightly orange and yellow and easy to find should you drop them on the ground. So I'm going to try to go with that. But anyways, I'll figure out how this whole canoe access to Kingsmere Lake, and therefore Grey Owl's cabin, works, and we'll get back to you. Okay, you guys, this is officially one of the coolest things I have ever seen. Holy shit. So this is a pulley and a cable. It goes over to there, to the boat launch area. That's how that looks. And you go over here. There's the stairs coming off the trail that I just came from. So I'm not sure. Now I'm confused if you would carry your canoe down there. No. Oh, no, 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 no. I remember now. You canoe in from kind of from the road, I think. It does a loop up there. I'll try to get some footage of it. But anyways, you get to the rapids here in the shallows and you can't canoe across there. So instead, they've installed this. So you would bring your canoe, kayak, whatever, up here, drag it up here, hook it onto there. You know, if there's enough people, you wouldn't even have to unload your gear. Hook that pulley onto it, winch it up this system of rollers, winch it up the rollers, over, onto fucking here, pardon my French, onto one of these trolleys. Let's see if I can get it to stand up. Okay, so you got canoe, trolley, bam. You're over there, you winch your canoe onto the trolley, and there's another one there if you need. Looks like kind of a two-man operation. You could probably do it on your own. Balance it on there, and there's these little train tracks, trolley tracks, that go all the way past the rapids. Outstanding. Well, that's it. Clearly I have no choice but to go home, load the canoe onto the Suburban, grab some more supplies, and come back. I wish I could. I probably won't be able to, but definitely next summer. Here's the Kingsmere River leading up to that trolley system. Just looked at the system itself. A little out of view around the corner there, I think. But, oh, it's down there. Anyways, that's the river. I tried to get her on video, but I just walked past, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a woodlands grouse. I don't know if that's the same as a prairie chicken or whatever. I know when I was younger, growing up in White Bear Lake here in Saskatchewan, you used to see them a lot. I'm pretty sure it's the same bird, and some people would call them goofies because they are not brilliant at predator invasion, I guess you could say. I mean, they jump up in the trees and stuff, and unless you're a human with a projectile, you probably can't get them. But, you know, I've seen inept hunters, I guess you could say, with a 22, shoot at them, and they'll kind of get a little spooked, and they'll fly up like 3 feet away, sit there for a while, shoot at them, miss, 3 feet, 4 feet. That went on for quite a while, and it was pretty hilarious. There may have been alcohol involved, which I don't recommend combining alcohol and firearms, but anyways, they weren't being malicious or anything. I think they were just trying to get some lunch and have some fun and stuff. But anyways, those are the prairie chickens, we used to call them, or goofies. And I'm pretty sure they're the same bird that thump their wings against their chest as a mating call in the spring and summer and go thump, 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 thump. And that's exactly how they sound. Well, that has been Grey Owl's Cabin's trail. Here's the thing at the beginning, which I saw and totally forgot to do. But it's a boot wipe thing to clean invasive species off of your boots so you don't spread them around. You know, they got oxeye daisy, yellow toad flax, Canadian thistle, which yeah, are the invasive species. My brother told me that Canadian thistle, that's what it's called in America, is Canadian thistle. Canada's called it Russian thistle. When you get into the southern United States, they call it Yankee thistle. So all we really know is that it comes from the north and we blame whoever's north of us for their rotten thistle. And some thistle I know you can eat, but I don't know about that stuff. So here's the trailhead. I already pointed all this out to you guys already. Pretty sure that's the boat launch down there. I have to go find out for this spring. And in the words of Grey Owl himself, nature does not belong to you, rather you to it. And there's a Whiskey Jack saying goodbye to me, I'd like to believe. Goodbye, Mrs. Whiskey Jack. Thank you for allowing me safe travel onto your land. This is the boat launch where you would, looks like there's another lake over there. This must be the river that connects the two. This time of the year is, most likely lower than it would be in the spring, but it looks like you could still float a canoe over to that pulley system. And there's a sign that says maximum 40 horsepower limit for boats. So looks like you could, even bring a bigger boat if the water was high enough. There's a trail restriction for dogs right now. Apparently, I don't know, they must have been getting into it with bears part way or whatever, but I think generally dogs are permitted. But anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure. Time is a precious resource these days, so thank you for choosing to spend some of it with me. Get out there, grab your backpack straps, strap on, and we'll see you on the trail. Until next time, bye.